After 3 years, everyone thought they could ride on my head. And I, just waiting for her to hold my hand, can give her the whole world. Chapter 1. I just want to be a loser. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Young master, you must come back with us. The Han family needs you to take charge of the overall situation now. Your father is critically ill and your brother is imprisoned. Now only you can support the Han family. Your grandmother said, we must take you back. On Zitong Street in Yuncheng, Han Sanxian was carrying a gift box and wearing clothes bought from a roadside stall, looking indifferent. I have never been able to speak eloquently since I was young, and I couldn't please her. My brother is deeply favored, and my grandmother is afraid that I will snatch his inheritance position and drive me out of the Han family. Having been with the Su family for 3 years and suffering from humiliation, when did the Han family ever show any concern? It was she who forced me to leave the Han family, and now she wants me to go back. Do you think Han Sanxian is a dog? Now I just want to be a loser quietly, and no one his mother can disturb me. Han Sanxian walked away with great strides, leaving the group looking at each other. The Su family is a second-rate aristocratic family in Yuncheng. 3 years ago, Han Sanxian was down and out like a dog. It was the father of the Su family who personally signed the engagement. At that time, a wedding shocked the entire Yuncheng, but the reason for the sensation was because Su Yingxia married an unknown useless person, which became a joke for the entire Yuncheng. The true identity of Han Sanxian is only known to the old man of the Su family. However, 2 months after the wedding, the old man of the Su family passed away due to illness. Since then, no one knows Han Sanxian's identity, and he has also confirmed his useless status as a son.in-law. For the past 3 years, Han Sanxian has been subjected to ridicule, treating each other coldly. However, compared to being expelled from the Han family, the latter is even more disheartening. He has already recognized it, and it has become a habit for people to poke his spine for a long time. Today is the birthday of Grandma Su from the Su family. Han Sanxian carefully selected a gift, which is not of high value and is destined to be ridiculed by others. However, with only 2 taels of silver in his pocket, there is only so much he can do. As for what happened just now, Han Sanxian remained calm and even wanted to laugh. His brother is eloquent, although he can win the favor of his grandmother, he is arrogant and domineering, with a corrupt private life, and accidents will happen sooner or later. Maybe this is the end of the Han family. But what does it have to do with me? I am just the despised son.in-law of the Su family. Returning to the Su family villa, a beautiful figure stood at the door, restless. Su Yingxia, a very beautiful woman and Han Sanxian's wife, was not a real wife. It was because she was excellent enough that her wedding 3 years ago became a joke. Han Sanxian took 2 steps and ran to Su Yingxia's side, saying, "Yingxia, who are you waiting for?" Su Yingxia looked at Han Sanxian with annoyance and said, "Have you prepared the gift for Grandma?" Han Sanxian raised the gift box in his hand and said, "It's ready. I put a lot of effort into choosing it." Su Yingxia didn't even glance at her. 3 years ago, she didn't know what kind of nerve her grandfather had gone through and insisted that she marry Han Sanxian, and even let Han Sanxian become his son.in-law. What puzzled Su Yingxia even more was that before her grandfather passed away, he held her hand and warned her not to look down on Han Sanxian. 3 years have passed, and Su Yingxia can't figure out what makes this useless person worth Grandpa's special attention. If it weren't for her concern for the reputation of the Su family, she would have wanted to divorce Han Sanxian long ago. Don't speak recklessly later. All your relatives will be present today, so I won't be able to mock you. Please bear with me, I don't want to lose face because of you, Su Yingxia reminded. Han Sanxian nodded with a smile, looking indifferent. Seeing Han Sanxian's expression, Su Yingxia wished he could hit him dead. He had no background and had some real skills, but for 3 whole years, he had never done anything else at home except sweeping, washing clothes, and cooking. Han Sanqian was not at all dissatisfied with Su Yingxia's attitude towards him, because they got married without any emotional foundation, and it was very unfair for Su Yingxia to marry him, a useless person. Therefore, he could understand Su Yingxia. The two of them walked into the living room, and almost all of the relatives of the Su family were present, creating a lively atmosphere. "Welcome summer, you have come. Grandma's birthday today, why did you come so late? It's not like we're going to prepare some surprises for Grandma, is it?" Relatives warmly greeted Su Yingxia, completely ignoring Han Sanqian's presence. Han Sanqian, who is used to being the background board, doesn't care either. It's better to be ignored, so as not to be laughed at by others. However, there are always people who are dissatisfied with him. Su Haichao, Su Yingxia's cousin, always makes things difficult for Han Sanqian every time he meets, and even demotes him to nothing. Even the deposed son-in-law title of Han Sanqian in Yincheng was facilitated by Su Haichao, who often spoke ill of Han Sanqian outside. "Han Sanqian, isn't what you're holding in your hand a gift for Grandma?" Su Haichao looked at Han Sanqian with a smile on his face. With such a large item wrapped in gift paper, it looked like a cheap item. "Yeah," Han Sanqian admitted confidently. Su Haichao sneered, "What kind of thing is this? It shouldn't have been bought from a roadside stall, right?" Han Sanqian shook his head and said, "I bought it from a gift shop." Although sincere, his words caused a burst of laughter. Su Yingxia's expression froze, and she didn't expect to lose face because of Han Sanqian just as she arrived home. However, usually at such times, Su Yingxia doesn't speak up. She treats herself and Han Sanqian as two families, and she doesn't care how embarrassed Han Sanqian is. As long as she doesn't bring the topic up to her, it's okay. "Are you here to be funny? Grandma is celebrating her 80th birthday today, are you so careless when preparing gifts?" Su Haichao walked to the coffee table in the living room, which was filled with various exquisite gifts. At first glance, they were worth a lot, and compared to Han Sanqian's gift box, they were just like clouds and mud. "Look at what I brought to my grandmother, aged pu'er tea. Do you know how much this cake tea costs?" 880,000 yuan, Su Haichao said proudly. "Hee, that's great." Han Sanqian glanced at Su Yingxia. Su Yingxia had already warned him before to speak less, so he also answered with a word of gold. Su Haichao clearly wanted to show a sense of superiority in front of Han Sanqian with his gift, and continued, "Deducting some crumbs from this cake tea is more expensive than your gift, right, crumbs?" Han Sanqian smiled but remained silent, and the entire living room was filled with the sound of ridicule. Although Su Yingxia made up her mind not to participate in Han Sanqian's affairs, it can be said that Han Sanqian is still her husband and has a marriage certificate. Even though she has never let Han Sanqian touch her in the past 3 years and there is no real marital relationship, Han Sanqian is embarrassed in front of so many relatives, and she cannot live up to her face. "Su Haichao, it's almost enough. It's your business to have money, and it doesn't matter how expensive the gift is for us. There's no need to show it off," Su Yingxia said with a displeased expression. Han Sanqian looked at Su Yingxia in surprise. It was the first time in 3 years that Su Yingxia had spoken for him. "Showing off? Yingxia, you're wrong. Do I need to show off in front of a useless person? I just feel like he doesn't value his grandmother's birthday, and he's not sensible and doesn't have the money to give gifts. Don't you know how to help him? Anyway, this useless person is also a soft eater. Or is it that you don't value your grandmother's birthday at all?" Su Haichao sneered. "You." Su Yingxia's face turned red and her ears turned red. Her family had the lowest status in the Su family and also had the worst living conditions. With gifts worth hundreds of thousands, she really couldn't handle them. At this moment, Han Sanqian suddenly stood up and walked over to Su Haichao, sniffing pu'er. "What are you doing? This is a gift for Grandma. Can you smell it as a waste? Su Haichao said angrily. Han Sanqian frowned slightly and said, the older pu'er gets, the more fragrant it becomes. It's also because of this that the older the pu'er in the market, the more expensive it will be. But precisely because of this, many vendors will use the cost of the year to deliberately raise the price. Pu'er tea is also divided into raw tea and ripe tea. The tea in your hand is mainly green and dark green, which can be judged as raw tea. Raw tea has an unparalleled taste compared to ripe tea, but newly made raw tea has tea caffeine, which is very irritating to the human gastrointestinal tract and requires a long time of aging. The longer the aging cycle, the less content it will be. But the tea cake in your hand, due to deliberate aging, has a long shelf life. After drinking it, it will inevitably cause harm to your body. I'm a scumbag. It's good, but you're pretending to be inferior and even endangering Grandma's health. Isn't it even more scumbag than me? Han Sanqian made a resounding sound, pointing at Su Haichao. The entire Su family villa was silent. Chapter 2. Inverting Black and White. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You fart, Grandma hasn't been drinking tea for the past 2 years. How could I possibly harm her? Su Haichao said with a face full of fear, looking eager to defend himself, which actually made people feel that he had a ghost in his heart. Oh, that's it. Han Sanqian nodded and said with a sudden realization, you know my grandmother doesn't drink tea, so you used inferior products to deceive her. 880,000 yuan has been put into your own pocket. Su Haichao's eyes were flickering and he looked guilty, because Han Sanqian was right in everything he said. He was indeed using inferior products to make some face for his family, and his grandmother didn't drink tea now. In his opinion, it was impossible for him to discover this matter. I didn't expect to show off in front of Han Sanqian and show his relatives Han Sanqian's jokes, but Han Sanqian exposed his lie. What you say, you useless person, is like making up a story. Do you even understand tea? Su Hai said calmly, pretending to be strong. The relatives who had doubts about Su Haichao just now were shocked to hear this sentence and realized that they had almost been fooled by Han Sanqian. How could he possibly understand these high-end products as a person who eats soft food? Han Sanqian, if you don't understand, just shut up and don't slander Haichao. Yeah, don't even look at what kind of person you are or what kind of professional you are. Can you distinguish between good and bad? You can only distinguish between salt and monosodium glutamate, after all, you are a family cook. Another burst of laughter, especially piercing. Han Sanqian did not defend himself, as he could compete alone in the Han family. But every other row is like a mountain, explaining too much to these people who don't understand anything is useless. What's so lively? At this moment, an old voice came, and the old lady of the Su family finally appeared. A group of relatives stood up one after another with an extremely respectful attitude. Since the death of the old man of the Su family, the old lady of the Su family has taken control of great power, and her position is like that of an Empress Dowager Cixi. Any matter of the Su family, big or small, must be decided by her, and all of the Su family's relatives are now in the hands of the old lady of the Su family. Some people are hoping that the old lady of the Su family will die soon so that they can share real power. However, the old lady of the Su family is physically strong and may not be able to fulfill their wishes in recent years. Grandma, Su Haichao gave you a cake of aged pu'er tea. Let's see if it's real or fake. Su Yingxia glanced at Han Sanqian, but didn't know what was going on. She actually believed Han Sanqian's words. Perhaps in her heart, she also hoped to expose this lie. Upon hearing these words, Su Haichao immediately panicked. Others cannot tell the authenticity of this tea, but Grandma, who has been drinking it for decades, must be able to tell. Let her discern the truth, isn't it like putting a guillotine on her head? Is that right? Let me take a look, said the old lady of the Su family. Su Haichao had a solemn expression on his face, as if going to the execution ground, and handed the tea cake to the old lady. Su Yingxia wanted to argue for some credit for Han Sanxian and quickly said, "This is what Sanxian saw." The old lady of the Su family's face was wrinkled with displeasure, and Su Haichao's heart was already filled with desire to die. His parents also turned pale. If a fake product was really sent, the old lady would not be happy to remember it. They would probably have less wealth to share in the future. Su Yingxia glanced at Han Sanxian and thought to herself that he had finally done something for his family. If his grandmother praised him, she could be a little kinder to him in the future. But the old lady of the Su family poured a basin of cold water directly on Su Yingxia. "This is true, why do you slander Haichao?" The old lady looked directly at Han Sanxian and questioned. Han Sanxian was taken aback for a moment. There was clearly a problem with this cake tea. He knew that the old lady was a person who knew tea very well, how could she not see it? Su Haichao was also stunned. Did he actually pass the test? Is it because grandma is old and her old eyes are dim? Grandma, take a closer look at this tea. Han Sanxian still wanted to explain, but the old lady interrupted sternly, "Are you saying that I'm getting old and my eyes are not working properly, so I can't even distinguish between real and fake?" "I say it's real, it's real." Han Sanxian, Grandma said it's true. "What are you talking about?" "Mom, don't be angry." Han Sanxian was originally a person who didn't understand anything. He pretended to be an expert in front of you and didn't know what to say. "Han Sanxian, why don't you apologize to Haichao?" Han Sanxian looked at the old lady and suddenly showed a bitter smile on his face. It's not that she didn't see it, it's just that she doesn't want to expose her grandson. "Yes, I am just an outsider and a waste in your eyes. How could I possibly hurt Su Haichao's face because of me?" Pop. A loud slap rang in the face. Su Yingxia gritted her teeth and looked at Han Sanxian, saying, "I shouldn't have held any hope for you." There was a burning pain on his face, and due to Su Yingxia's nails being too long, Han Sanxian's face was scratched with several bloodstains. Han Sanxian suddenly clenched his fist, but as he looked at Su Yingxia's tearful eyes, he relaxed again. Isn't the injustice she suffered because of herself? What is the reason to get angry with her? In the past 3 years, he has endured a lot of insults and humiliation, and Su Yingxia is not without it. For him, it was a hardship, but for Su Yingxia, it was even more of a disaster from heaven. "I'm sorry, I took a wrong look," Han Sanxian said. Su Yingxia felt like Han Sanxian had lost all his face and wished he could find a way to get in. If it weren't for his talkativeness, things wouldn't have been so embarrassing. "What's the use of apologizing to me?" "Apologize to Haichao," Su Yingxia said. Han Sanxian took a deep breath and walked up to Su Haichao, bowing his head and saying, "I'm sorry." With a smile on his lips, Su Haichao whispered in Han Sanxian's ear, "Do you think Grandma didn't notice? But I'm her grandson, and you're just a useless son. Law. Even if it's fake, she will help me." Su Haichao's proud tone was particularly jarring to Han Sanxian, but the old lady reversed the truth and firmly believed that the tea cake was real, leaving Han Sanxian helpless. The occurrence of this incident did not lower Han Sanxian's status in the Su family, as he was seen as a waste in everyone's eyes and his status was already at its lowest. For Su Yingxia, this matter is very difficult to accept, but what she finds difficult to accept is not that Han Sanxian made her lose face. After Su Yingxia calmed down, she realized a problem. The authenticity of the tea was not important at all. What was important was that the old lady could not help Han Sanxian speak, which meant that even if Han Sanxian really saw that there was something wrong with the tea and it was indeed fake, his grandmother would still protect Su Haichao. When it was almost time for lunch, Su Yingxia walked up to Han Sanxian and said, "I owe you a slap. You can take it any time you want." "You want to give me even a slap?" Han Sanxian said with a bitter smile. "I don't want to owe you anything, you know, we are destined to divorce, it's just a matter of time, said Su Yingxia. Han Sanqian looked at Su Yingxia walking towards the restaurant and didn't know where he had the courage. He said, do you want me to change? In this world, only you can make me change. Su Yingxia turned her head with a sad smile. Don't forget your identity. In the Su family, you will never be valued, and besides, you are not someone who lacks talent. During lunchtime, the restaurant is seated with a family identity in second place. Han Sanqian, as a son-in-law, was naturally assigned to the smallest table and the farthest from the old lady of the Su family. Moreover, all the people sitting with Han Sanqian were servants and cleaners from the Su family. While eating, a person ran into the restaurant in a panic. Grandma, someone has brought a gift, the person said to the old lady of the Su family. Mrs. Su's birthday was not celebrated by outsiders, and it has been the same for many years. Moreover, the Su family is only a second-rate aristocratic family in Yuncheng, and no one will deliberately please them. What kind of person is it? Asked the old lady of the Su family. I don't know what Han family it is, I haven't seen it before, the person said. Han family. Among those surnamed Han present, only Han Sanqian was present, but except for Su Yingxia who glanced at Han Sanqian, no one else had any connection between Han and Han Sanqian. Phoenix in flight, a golden comb. Feng Wang Lai, a golden phoenix hairpin. Good luck, a jade abacus. Riding the dragon and matching the phoenix, a pair of gold bracelets. Mandarin ducks playing with lotus, a pair of golden bowls and chopsticks. Listening to the gift list, the Su family looked at each other and said, this is not a gift for the old lady of the Su family, it's just a dowry. Cash dowry, 8.8 million yuan. The Su family was stunned. Chapter 3. Good. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When the bright red 100 yuan bill was placed in front of them, the entire Su family restaurant was silent, with only a few rapid breaths to be heard. For a second-rate family like the Su family, such dowry money is almost astronomical. The old lady of the Su family stood up with a crutch and walked unsteadily to the presenter. She looked excited and asked, may I ask, who are you and which daughter of the Su family you are interested in? Upon hearing these words, several unmarried young women from the Su family blushed with excitement. Although they didn't know who the other party was, being able to offer such an amazing dowry would definitely be a wealthy family. Getting married into a wealthy family is something they dream of. Su Yingxia's face turned pale. She was the only woman from the Su family who had already married, which means that everyone else had a chance, but she had no such possibility. I'm only responsible for giving gifts, I don't know anything else. The gift giver came and went quickly, without leaving any information. The Su family looked at the shining gold and jade, as well as the bright red cash of 8.8 million yuan. Many people had already started drooling. If their own daughter was valued, wouldn't it be like flying to the branches and becoming a phoenix? From now on, the entire Su family would have to rely on them. This must be me, I am the most beautiful woman in the Su family, said a woman with a very charming figure. Yo, where did you get that confidence? Now the main point is uncertain who it is. Do you want to be so eager? Yeah, we all have a chance, why would it definitely be you? I see, this wealthy young master deliberately shows off his mystery, maybe he's just interested in me. Several younger women competed against each other, and the family suddenly fell into pieces. Don't argue, everyone has a chance, but unfortunately, someone can only watch eagerly. Su Haiqiao deliberately glanced at Su Yingxia as he said these words. Everyone present knew who he was talking about and laughed. Yes, we already have one less competitor. Han Sanqian, thank you very much. If it weren't for you, we would have had another opponent. Han Sanqian lowered his head, his expression gloomy, even with a hint of ferocity. These people didn't know who the Han family was, but he was very clear about it. Make up for it. It's been 3 whole years, do I need Han Sanqian? Don't argue, I'll keep these things for now. After the gift giver personally comes forward and knows who he's interested in, I'll give these betrothal gifts to him. The old lady of the Su family firmly agreed, and the others stopped arguing. After lunch, Su Yingsha's family of 3 didn't wait for Han Sanxian and drove away on their own, because this incident caused them great embarrassment. How could they not be jealous of Han Sanxian's extravagance, not to mention the dowry money, when he entered the household? Returning home, Su Yingsha locked herself in her room. Su Yingsha's mother, Jiang Lan, roared angrily at Su Guiyao, "Look at them, then look at our family. That's the difference. If it weren't for you being useless, how could the old man have let Han Sanxian enter our house? I was really blind back then. I thought marrying into the Su family would lead a good life, but I didn't expect it to fall into your hands as a useless person. The old man never thought of giving you the inheritance rights of the Su family. Look at everyone else, they live in villas, elevator apartments, and I'm still crowded with you in this dilapidated community climbing stairs. The Su family's daughter-in-law sounds good when she says it, but you useless waste on the street, who knows what kind of hardship I'm living." Su Guiyao lowered his head and dared not refute. He was a typical wife who was strict and knew he was useless. He dared not lose his temper in front of Jiang Lan. Jiang Lan's dominance made Su Guiyao even more useless. "I don't care, let Yingsha divorce this useless person immediately. Your Su family's face has nothing to do with me, I just want a good life." Su Guiyao said weakly, "My dad warned me back then that we couldn't divorce them, and the whole Cloud City knows about this. Now that we divorce them, isn't it a joke?" Jiang Lan began to throw tantrums and tears down her face as she sat on the ground, crying bitterly, "Su Guiyao, you useless thing. How could I marry you, you coward? My mother did something wrong in her previous life. Do you want to ruin our family and the rest of Yingsha's life for the sake of Su's face? Yingsha runs to the construction site every day, so don't you feel sorry? She is a girl's family, but dirty and tiring work, and all your relatives let her do it. If you don't feel sorry for me, you should also feel sorry for your daughter." The Su family is in the building materials business, and running construction sites is a common occurrence. The reason why these tasks are all on Su Yingsha's head is indeed because their family has the lowest status in the Su family. Su Guiyao couldn't conceal his pain. He knew that it was indeed because he was the least useful, that the old man had entrusted Han Sanxian to them. He had to bear most of the responsibility for all of this. But the matter of divorce is not up to him. The old lady would rather let Su Yingsha and Han Sanxian live in poverty for a lifetime than let this matter embarrass the Su family. The wedding at that time was already a joke. After 3 years, it was gradually forgotten. If it were to divorce, it would inevitably be used as a joke after dinner. How could the old lady allow such a thing to happen? Han Sanxian walked to the door and heard the crying coming from home. He sat on the stairs and pulled out a cigarette. The rising smoke couldn't erase the coldness in Han Sanxian's eyes. After smoking a cigarette, Han Sanxian was about to enter, but inside came the voice of Su Yingsha. Su Yingsha, who had locked herself in the room, suddenly walked into the living room and looked at the distressed Jiang Lan and the painful Su Guiyao, saying, "I won't divorce him. Daughter, are you crazy? Do you want to spend your whole life with this loser?" In Jiang Lan's opinion, Su Yingsha should be the one who hopes for divorce the most, but she said so now. "I'm not crazy." For a whole 3 years, although he didn't make any achievements, he never complained at home during these 3 years. He didn't do anything to sweep the floor or cook, even if it was raising a dog, there would be emotions, let alone being alone. "I look down on him, but I don't hate him. This matter was decided by my grandfather. Even if I want to hate him, I only hate him. And Grandma won't let us divorce. She values the face of the Su family more than anything else." At the door, Han Sanxian took a deep breath and smiled. It wasn't until today that he realized he wasn't feeling so bad in Su Yingsha's heart. At least this woman had some feelings for him. It turns out that extreme hatred can really lead to love. Welcome summer, I've wronged you, Su Guiyao sighed and said. Su Yingxia, with tears streaming down her cheeks, shook her head and stubbornly said, I won't be wronged. All along, Su Yingxia also felt that she would divorce Han Sanxian, and even told him today that they would eventually divorce. But when this question was truly presented to Su Yingxia, she realized that the useless man had actually entered her heart in these 3 years. They had never held hands, and even in public places, they would maintain a certain distance. But this man slept under her bed for a whole 3 years, which was an indelible relationship. I'm just not up to it myself, I actually fell in love with him, Su Yingxia said, biting her white lips. At this moment, Han Sanxian opened the door and walked into the living room, looking at Su Yingxia with pear blossoms and rain, reaching out to wipe away the tears from her face. Han Sanxian, you said only I can change you. Not bad, I don't want to be looked down upon again, I don't want to be someone else's joke, I want to make everyone who looks down on me regret it. Okay. Han Sanxian succinctly answered one word and turned around to leave. Chapter 4. Is because of her. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Peninsula Hotel, a presidential suite. Across from Han Sanxian sat a woman with exquisite makeup, dressed in gold and silver, exuding a noble demeanor with every gesture and gesture. Sanxian, I'm glad you're willing to come and see me, said the woman named Shi Jing, the mother of Han Sanxian. Faced with his biological mother whom he had not seen in 3 years, Han Sanxian remained calm and didn't even glance at her. Who would have thought that I, a neglected little scumbag from the Han family, would come in handy for a day? I didn't expect that you wouldn't either, right? Han Sanxian's mouth curved upwards with a faint smile. 3,000, I know what happened 3 years ago was very unfair to you, but it was decided by your grandmother, and I have no choice, said Shi Jing with some excitement. Han Sanxian shook his head and said, 3 years. So in your eyes, unfairness was just 3 years ago. 13 years ago, he was 12 years old and only had his name on his birthday cake. You were all happy for him, but you forgot that I was only 5 minutes younger than him. Since then, unfairness has befallen me. For a whole 13 years, he has conquered all of you with one mouth. And what about me? No matter how hard I tried, no matter how excellent I was in the sect, you never saw it in your eyes. If it weren't for him being imprisoned, would you come and see me? If it weren't for the lack of inheritance in the Han family, would you still think of someone in this world named Han Sanxian? She doesn't deserve to be my grandmother, nor do you deserve to be my mother. Upon hearing these irrefutable words, Shi Jing covered her face and wept. The Han family owes me too much, I need to retrieve them one by one. She said she doesn't want to be looked down upon or become a joke in others' eyes anymore. Shi Jing took a deep breath, calmed down her emotions, and said, Yunqin will establish a new company, and you will be fully responsible. Hehe, is this her test for me? Even if Han Jiaqing Huang doesn't take over, she still doubts my ability. Han Sanxian looked at Shi Jing with fiery eyes. The new company, to put it nicely, let Han Sanxian be the boss, but Han Sanxian knew that this was just a test set by her grandmother for him. Only by doing a good job in Yunqing's company can he have a chance to inherit the Han family. Shi Jing nodded but remained silent. Okay, I will let her know who is qualified to inherit the Han family, and let her know the consequences of underestimating me. But all of this, I am not doing it for the Han family, but for her. After Han Sanxian left the hotel room, Shi Jing took out the phone. Mom, he agreed. I hope he doesn't disappoint me, otherwise even if I donate all the assets of the Han family, I won't leave him any money. Shi Jing hesitated to speak, but in the end, she didn't say anything because it wasn't just the old lady of the Han family, even she valued Han Sanxian's brother more. If it weren't for coercion, she wouldn't have come to Cloud City for the rest of her life. The next day, a heavyweight news stirred up a storm in Cloud City. Yencheng Han family is planning to establish a new company in Yuncheng. As a giant in Donghua's real estate industry, it is bound to vigorously promote the development of Yuncheng. Countless pairs of eyes are watching Han family's new company, hoping to seek cooperation. 3 days later, the Han family officially listed in Yuncheng as a weak water property. Just as people were wondering why the name of the Han family's new company was so strange, a huge stone fell again. Weaken Water Real Estate has purchased all the undeveloped wasteland in the west of the city to create a brand new urban area. No one doubts the strength of Weaken Water Real Estate, and even as soon as the news is out, many people believe that in the future, Cloud City will be the busiest place in the west of the city. For a moment, the company gate of Weak Water Real Estate was almost broken, and countless collaborations came knocking on their doors, hoping to get a share of the pie in the west of the city. The Su family runs a building materials business and naturally wants to share a piece of cake, and some people suspect that the Han family in Yancheng is the one who gives dowries. This made the unmarried women of the Su family so happy that they couldn't sleep well for days and nights. After all, the temptation of marrying into the Han family in Yancheng was too great. Unfortunately, this matter was quickly denied because the Su family came to seek cooperation, and no matter who came forward, they were all rejected by Weak Water Property, and the rejection was very painful. On that day, all relatives of the Su family were present and held an internal meeting in the company. Mrs. Su sat on the board of directors and looked at her anxious relatives, saying, "We have many competitors this time, but you should be aware of how much benefit it would bring to the Su family if we could establish a partnership with Weaken Water Property, and even potentially make us a first-tier family in Yuncheng. Therefore, we must not miss this opportunity. Mom, all of us have tried, not even the owner of the Weak Water Property. Yeah, I don't know if it doesn't match the Weak Water Property 8 characters. It seems that the Han family who gave us the dowry is not the Han family from Yancheng at all." Everyone was disheartened, and the old lady of the Su family angrily said, "Have you already pushed the nonsense of incompetence to the 8-character mismatch? If the Weak Water Property hasn't decided on a partner for a day, our Su family will have the opportunity. If we don't see each other, we will go to the company gate and wait, each person taking a day's turn. Isn't it a joke for everyone to take a day off and stand at the entrance of the Weak Water Company?" The relatives of the Su family present are all face-saving people, and they are not willing to do such shameful things. Su Yingxia lowered her head. This scene happened to be seen by Su Haichao, and she sneered in her heart. It was appropriate for her to do this kind of hard work, but she still wanted to avoid it. "Grandma, Yingxia hasn't had much work lately. We have a lot of work to do, why don't we let her go alone?" Su Haichao suggested. This sentence immediately caught the attention of others. "Yeah, anyway, Su Yingxia has nothing to do. We can't let her be a rice worm in the company. Since we have to rely on the company to make a living, we naturally have to work hard for it. It's most appropriate for her to do this." Su Yingxia lowered her head not to hide, but to vibrate her phone, and someone sent her a message. The information was sent by Han Sanxian, and the content is also very simple. Strive for opportunities and negotiate cooperation with weak water companies. Su Yingxia didn't know why Han Sanxian sent such a text message to her, and everyone else was disappointed. Can she just come forward and negotiate? "Yingxia, are you willing?" The old lady of the Su family didn't even glance at Su Yingxia. Su Yingxia has become accustomed to this kind of hard work. Whenever she cannot complete a task and has to bear the blame, she never fails to do it. "Grandma, I am willing," said Su Yingxia. Su Haichao smiled proudly and said, "Yingxia, don't be lazy. If you miss the opportunity to meet the weak water real estate owner, you can't afford it. Not bad, this is an opportunity for our Su family. Don't promise too much, but actually be lazy. How about this? Find a security guard to follow her, so that she doesn't take this matter to heart." Listening to these words, Su Yingxia gritted her teeth in hatred. She was also a member of the Su family, but sitting in this conference room, she was treated as an outsider and had someone monitor her. Given her previous record of poor performance, I think it's a good idea to find someone to follow her on this proposal. I think so too. A group of relatives were all nodding, and the old lady of the Su family agreed, saying, "Since that's the case, you can bring someone with you. If there's anything, I can help you share it." Su Yingxia clenched her fists and was very dissatisfied. Thinking of the message Han Sanqian sent her, she impulsively blurted out, "Don't worry, I won't slack off. I will negotiate this cooperation." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire conference room instantly quieted down, but soon a mocking voice rang out. "Su Yingxia, aren't you having a brain teaser? What we haven't achieved yet, can you do it? Ha ha ha, this is the biggest joke I've heard this year, it's almost laughable to death." Su Haichao's eyes lit up and he seized the opportunity to kick Su Yingxia and his family out. Although Su Yingxia's family is not valued, she is ultimately part of the Su family. In the future, if her grandmother dies, she will definitely share some of her property. However, if Su Yingxia can be kicked out of the Su family, there will be one less person sharing the property. "Su Yingxia, you said this yourself. What if you can't do it?" Su Haichao said. Su Yingxia actually regretted saying it out loud, but if she turns back now, it will definitely become a joke. "If you can do it, I'll bring you tea and water from now on, and call you Xia Jia. If you can't do it, get out of the Su family, how about that?" Okay. Chapter 5. Sorry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boss, come and pack some cigarettes. You are so punctual every day. The owner of the small shop across the street from Su's company looked at Han Sanqian with a sigh on his face. 3 years ago, on a certain day, this young man would appear here very punctually. 3 years have been like a day, rain or shine. At first, the boss felt strange, but gradually realized that whenever Su Yingxia left the company, he would also leave. The boss had a rough guess about Han Sanqian's identity, but did not specify it. Every family has a difficult story to remember. This Su family's son-in-law was treated as a waste by the entire Cloud City. Perhaps he also did not want others to know his identity. Anyway, it's just idle, Han Sanqian said with a smile. The boss is a middle-aged man who admires Han Sanqian's persistence very much. For the past 3 years, he has appeared at 4:30 p.m. every day and silently guarded Su Yingxia's side. When are you planning to pick her up from work? It's not the same thing to watch like this every day. There were no customers in the store, and the boss chatted with Han Sanqian. Han Sanqian looked at the door of the Su family company and smiled faintly. It's not yet time. Brother, there's something I don't know if I can say, the boss asked. Of course you can. I don't think you're an ordinary person, how could you invade the Su family? Although the boss doesn't have keen eyes, he interacts with many customers every day. In his eyes, Han Sanqian is different from others, and he can't say what he feels like. The boss just thinks he shouldn't be the trash in those people's mouths. Having flesh and blood, eating, drinking, and sleeping are equally important. Of course, they are ordinary people, said Han Sanqian. You know I didn't mean that, the boss hesitated for a moment before continuing, enduring so much criticism, if it were me, I would have collapsed long ago. Collapse. Han Sanqian smiled. As a waste and abandoned child, he entered the Su family, but Su Yingxia did not collapse. He had no right to collapse. In the eyes of others, Han Sanqian endured humiliation. But in Han Sanqian's eyes, the ridicule Su Yingxia received was much more severe than him. What I endure is nothing compared to her, Han Sanqian said. The boss sighed and said nothing more. After Su Yingxia finished work, Han Sanqian bid farewell to the boss as usual and rode away on a small battery. Su Yingxia stood at the company gate until Han Sanqian's figure disappeared. For 3 years, Han Sanxian has been waiting for Su Yingxia to finish work every day. And Su Yingxia also waited until Han Sanxian left before getting on the car. When Su Guiyao returned home and told Jiang Lan what had happened at the meeting, Jiang Lan felt like he was going crazy. Su Yingxia, are you crazy? Have you ever thought about how we will continue to live after being kicked out of the Su family? Su Haichao deliberately provoked you. Don't you know what kind of heart he's in? Su Yingxia said calmly, he doesn't want us to share the assets of the Su family. Upon hearing these words, Jiang Lan's face turned pale with anger and she roared, since you know why you have to agree, what they haven't done yet, how can you do it? Su Yingxia's mood is very complicated now. She believes in Han Sanxian, but she doesn't know whether her actions are right or wrong. Although their family has a low status in the company, the old lady passed away and how could she get some money? If she were kicked out of the Su family, there would be nothing left. Believing in Han Sanxian with future fate as a gamble comes at a great cost, but even if he speaks his mind, can he still back out? Mom, are you just not believing me like this? Su Yingxia said. Jiang Lan was so angry that she pounded her chest and feet, saying, how can I believe you? Those relatives of the Su family have all been met with dust. How can you do that? Why? Su Yingxia really doesn't know why, because she agreed to this because of Han Sanxian's message. At this moment, Han Sanxian returned home and walked up to Su Yingxia, saying to Jiang Lan, Mom, you should believe her. Yingxia can definitely do it. Jiang Lan impatiently glanced at Han Sanxian and said coldly, what does this matter to you? If it weren't for your intrusion into our family, my daughter is so beautiful, she would definitely be able to marry into a wealthy family in the future. If you ruin us, what qualifications do you have to speak? Han Sanxian remained silent and went to the kitchen to cook. Han Sanxian, can I trust you? Su Yingxia suddenly said to Han Sanxian. Han Sanxian turned his head and said with a smile, yes. What's the situation? Jiang Lan saw that something was not quite right and quickly asked Su Yingxia. It couldn't be this useless person who asked Su Yingxia to agree to this matter. You come over and speak clearly. Did you also get involved in this matter? Did you make Yingxia agree? Jiang Lan asked Han Sanxian. Su Yingxia knew that if Jiang Lan knew about the short message, she would definitely make Han Sanxian difficult, and even possibly drive him out of the house. Mom, this is my decision, it has nothing to do with him, Su Yingxia said. It's okay, I see you've been mesmerized by this useless person. Can you believe what he said? Su Yingxia, are you crazy? Jiang Lan grabbed Su Yingxia's shoulder, causing her shoulder to ache due to her emotional excitement. Looking at Su Yingxia's painful expression, Han Sanxian's expression suddenly turned cold as ice. He grabbed Jiang Lan's wrist and said coldly, can Yingxia do it? Tomorrow we will know why you don't want to believe her. Jiang Lan is extremely angry. When will it be this useless person's turn to speak? You let go of me, our family doesn't have the right for you to speak, Jiang Lan said. Han Sanxian looked coldly at Jiang Lan, not giving in at all. This was the first time he had shown such dominance in the Su family. Looking into Han Sanxian's eyes, Jiang Lan suddenly felt a little guilty, as if he was going to kill himself. Su Guiyao saw that something was wrong and quickly came up to make amends, saying, you guys loosen up first. The situation is already like this, what's the point of making trouble? Now we can only try our best to make Yingxia complete this matter. After Jiang Lan released Su Yingxia, Han Sanxian finally let go and said to Su Yingxia, I'll go cook. Jiang Lan gritted her teeth in hatred, looked at her red wrist, and said fiercely, sooner or later, I will find a way to get you out of our house, you coward. At dinner, Jiang Lan didn't come to the table. Su Guiyao talked a lot about the weak water property at the table, and he was also very afraid because if Su Yingxia didn't do it tomorrow, Su Haichao and his relatives would never let them go. If they were really kicked out of the Su family, they would be finished. After dinner, Han Sanxian took a shower and returned to his room to find Su Yingxia sitting in bed, staring straight at him. Han Sanxian lay on the floor and said to Su Yingxia, "The owner of Weak Water Property is my classmate." "Oh," Su Yingxia simply responded without further questioning. The room is so quiet that needles can be heard, and for 3 years, it has remained unchanged day after day. But today Su Yingxia's mood was a bit strange, especially when Han Sanxian grabbed Jiang Lan's hand just now, that kind of gaze that Su Yingxia had never seen before. "Don't wait for me at the company in the future," Su Yingxia suddenly said. Han Sanxian was slightly surprised. He didn't expect Su Yingxia to know about this. "Okay." Su Yingxia turned her back to Han Sanxian, bit her lips tightly, and her heart inexplicably rippled. She always thought she could easily divorce Han Sanxian, but when Jiang Lan brought up this matter yesterday, she realized she couldn't do it. This man, no matter how weak or useless he may be, has been by his side for 3 whole years. No matter how bad the comments from the outside world may be, no matter how cold one's attitude towards him may be, he always carries a brilliant smile in front of oneself. Human hearts are made of meat, and Su Yingxia has no iron heart. Moreover, she now knows that she has actually been accustomed to having him by her side for a long time. "Pick me up at the company gate." Han Sanxian, as if struck by lightning, looked at Su Yingxia lying on her back and his expression slowly became filled with happiness. Su Yingxia couldn't see Han Sanxian's expression and couldn't hear his answer for a long time. She thought he didn't want it and said discontentedly, "If you don't want it, then forget it." Han Sanxian sat up excitedly and said, "I am willing to." "Yes, I am willing." Su Yingxia felt Han Sanxian's excitement, and 2 lines of clear tears slid down like pearls. It turned out that he didn't want much. "I'm sorry for these 3 years. Chapter 6. Signing Contracts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, Su Haichao sat in the office and a phone call made him laugh uncontrollably, even tears were about to burst into his eyes. A few Su family members were also present, watching Su Haichao inexplicably smile, puzzled. "Haichao, what happened? Is it so funny? Don't worry about laughing yourself, hurry up and tell us too. Can't it be Su Yingxia who fled from the battlefield?" Su Haichao covered his stomach and said, "Damn it, I have a stomachache when I laugh. Su Yingxia is really a hell of a bitch. What's going on? You should tell me quickly." Several of the Su family's peers were so anxious that they looked like ants on a hot pot. This crazy woman actually asked Han Sanxian, that useless person, to use an electric battery to drive her to the Weak Water Property. Her mind went crazy, right, said Su Haichao. Upon hearing these words, the office burst into hearty laughter, and no one could resist it, causing everyone to laugh uncontrollably. "Ha ha ha, when she talks about cooperation like this, can Weak Water Property handle her? I think she has already given up. Also, we haven't discussed a cooperation yet. How could she possibly do it? Haichao, you used this move very well. Su Yingxia is doomed to die this time and will be expelled from the Su family. In the future, when dividing the property, she won't have her share." A few young people colluded in unison, and none of them believed that Su Yingxia could do this. They were even prepared to watch jokes. "What if she stubbornly reneges on her face?" someone said anxiously. Su Hai gave a cold smile and finally found the opportunity to kick Su Yingxia out of the Su family. How could he give Su Yingxia a chance to repent? "Don't worry, I have a way to get her out of the Su family." "You just need to stand with me then," Su Haichao said. "Don't worry, of course we are on the same side as you. Su Yingxia has caused a lot of embarrassment for our Su family. This time, if we drive her out of the Su family, we won't have to be laughed at by outsiders anymore. Yeah, that useless Han Sanxian has made me unable to lift my head many times. Now I can finally get rid of him. Weak Water Properties. After putting down the car, Han Sanqian looked at Su Yingxia with a nervous expression and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I have already agreed with my classmates to sign the contract directly." Su Yingxia didn't ask much about Han Sanqian's classmates, and there were many competitors in the Su family this time. The Su family didn't have any advantage. Can we really get such a big cooperation just by having a friendship with classmates? Your classmates, won't they play with you? Su Yingxia said. Of course not, he and I are sworn brothers, Han Sanqian said. Seeing Han Sanqian's confident expression, Su Yingxia also breathed a sigh of relief. Last night's conversation, although it did not cause a rapid increase in their relationship, some of the barriers have been eliminated. Su Yingxia also knows that no matter what her mentality is, this matter must be faced. Entering the company, before Su Yingxia could speak, the front desk staff approached her. "Excuse me, are you Miss Su?" She wore a professional bag skirt and a tall woman with a professional smile on her face. Su Yingxia looked flattered and said, "Yes, it's me. Please come with me." The elevator reached the top floor of the weak water property, and Su Yingxia felt her heart almost beating. Although the contract had not been signed yet, such treatment had already shown her the dawn. When the elevator door opened, a middle-aged man had been waiting for a long time. "Hello Miss Su, my name is Zhong Liang, the person in charge of the West City project, and I am also responsible for the cooperation with your company," Zhong Liang introduced himself. Su Yingxia stood still at a loss. Zhong Liang continued with a smile, "The boss has a lot of social interactions, so he usually doesn't come forward. If Miss Su has any questions, you can just let me know." Su Yingxia shook her head repeatedly and said in a panic, No, I don't have any problem, it's just. We haven't started discussing cooperation yet. According to the boss's instructions, the contract is ready and I have signed it. If Miss Su thinks there is no problem after reading it, just sign it, said Zhong Liang. Ah. Su Yingxia looked at Zhong Liang in shock. Although the owner of weak water property was Han Sanqian's classmate, Su Yingxia never dreamed that it would go so smoothly. Weak water property had already prepared all the contracts. "Zhong, You're not joking with me, are you?" Su Yingxia asked incredulously. "Of course not, it was all personally ordered by the boss." "Please follow me," said Zhong Liang. Following Zhong Liang into the office, Su Yingxia looked at the contract and found no issues. Moreover, this contract was very profitable for the Su family, and no real estate company in the market could make such a large concession. "Zhong, are you sure you're not joking with me?" Su Yingxia felt like she was dreaming. If she could bring this contract back to the Su family, who would dare to underestimate her? Who else has the right to say she's useless? Zhong Liang handed his pen to Su Yingxia and said, "Of course it's not a joke. If Miss Su thinks it's okay, just sign it." Su Yingxia has a dry mouth and tongue, and everything has come too smoothly. It seems that Han Sanqian has a good relationship with his classmate. But how could he know such a powerful person? With the contract in hand, Su Yingxia stepped out of the weak water property, as if losing her soul. A sneaky guy in the distance saw this scene and quickly took out his phone to report to Su Haichao. After receiving this news, Su Haichao was very pleased and planned to hold an internal meeting immediately. He wanted to drive Su Yingxia out of the Su family during the meeting. "What's wrong?" Han Sanqian walked up to Su Yingxia and looked at her lost and confused expression, thinking to himself, could it be that Zhong Liang didn't treat her well? "Sign the contract," Su Yingxia said in a wooden tone as she looked at Han Sanqian. Han Sanqian smiled and said, "Since you have already signed the contract, why do you look like you're out of your wits?" Su Yingxia is not feeling lost, but this feeling makes her too unreal, just like dreaming. At this moment, Su Yingxia's phone rang. After seeing these 3 words, she said helplessly, "Su Haichao can't wait. But this time he will definitely be disappointed," Han Sanqian said. "This is all thanks to you. If it weren't for you, our family would have ended. Su Yingxia looked gratefully at Han Sanxian. Don't let anyone know about this except you. Why? Su Yingxia looked at Han Sanxian puzzled. This incident was enough to change Han Sanxian's position in the Su family. Why did he hide it? You will know in the future, Han Sanxian said. Su Yingxia nodded. Riding on a small electric donkey, Han Sanxian took Su Yingxia to the company and then to the convenience store. Looking at the boss with a smile, although he didn't speak, the boss knew that the time had come for Han Sanxian to speak. All relatives were present in the meeting room of the Su family company. I didn't expect the cow she boasted about yesterday to be revealed in its true form today. I really thought she had some skills. What skills can Su Yingxia have? We can't even talk about cooperation, how could she possibly do it? Hai Chao, while your grandmother hasn't arrived yet, I have to remind you that you must make Su Yingxia pay the price and never let her cheat. Not bad, we must take this opportunity to drive Su Yingxia's family out of the Su family. Relatives were full of gossip, but when Mrs. Su arrived, they all shut their mouths. The door to the conference room opened and Su Yingxia walked in. Su Yingxia, you probably haven't forgotten what you said yesterday, have you? Su Haichao said eagerly before Su Yingxia could sit down. Su Yingxia looked at Su Haichao with a calm expression and said, You didn't forget what you said, did you? Ha ha ha, of course not, but what does it matter? What I said doesn't matter if you haven't talked about cooperation. Su Haichao said proudly. The news from eyeliner is enough to show that Su Yingxia failed. If she succeeds, how can she lose her soul? Grandma, I have already negotiated the cooperation and signed the contract. Please take a look, Su Yingxia handed the contract to the old lady. The relatives of the Su family immediately showed an expression of disbelief. The old lady of the Su family also raised her eyelids and said, Have you already signed the contract? Chapter 7. Willing to gamble and accepting defeat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The old lady finally faced Su Yingxia squarely and asked her assistant to bring all her reading glasses. The relatives of the Su family stretched their necks to see the content of the contract, because they didn't believe that Su Yingxia could really negotiate the cooperation. Almost everyone present had appeared, not even in front of the weak water real estate owner. Why did Su Yingxia come? She has a humble position in the Su family and has always been unpopular, so no one really treats Su Yingxia as a relative. But if she talks about cooperation, what if she gets the attention of the old lady? The one who is least willing to believe is Su Haichao, because Su Yingxia's cooperation means he will have to bring tea and water to Su Yingxia in the future, and even shout Xia Jia, which is a shame. Su Yingxia, you casually drafted a contract yourself. Who would believe that? I don't think you even saw the owner of the weak water real estate, did you? Su Haichao said sarcastically. Not bad, I really haven't seen the owner of the weak water property. Zhong Liang is fully responsible for the project in the west of the city, and he has also said that the owner is very busy, which Su Yingxia can understand. After Su Yingxia said these words, the relatives of the Su family became restless and glared angrily at each other. Su Yingxia, you dare to create a false contract to deceive us. I didn't expect that you would even do such a thing to avoid being kicked out of the Su family. Do you treat us like idiots? Use fake contracts to deceive us. Everyone rose up in anger, as if treating Su Yingxia as an enemy, and everyone gritted their teeth in hatred. Su Haichao's tense expression instantly relaxed as he looked at Su Yingxia like an idiot and said, You can use this method too. Are you very worried about being kicked out of the Su family? Also, your family of 3, plus a useless son. In law, it would be difficult to eat without the Su family. But don't worry, I won't be too heartless. If I'm really hungry, I will also give you a meal. The others laughed and agreed, not bad, we can still provide a meal. Instead of being angry, Su Yingxia also smiled and said, it's not up to you to decide whether the contract is true or not. Although I haven't seen the owner of the weak water property, the person in charge of the West City project is Zhong Liang, and this contract is also signed by him. I'm not a fool, let alone treat my grandmother like a fool, falsifying contracts. Do you think I can do this? Su Haichao felt a thump in his heart, his face pale as paper. Fake contracts really have no meaning, and they can even anger grandma. How could Su Yingxia do this? Can you say that she really talked about cooperation? Su Yingxia, why are you doing something that we haven't done yet? Before Su Haichao could speak, the old lady raised her hand. Looking up at Su Yingxia, he asked, is this contract really signed between you and Zhong Liang? We are a full material supplier for the project in the west of the city. Grandma, I have invited Zhong Liang to our company tomorrow, and we will naturally know the authenticity, said Su Yingxia. The old lady smiled and said 3 good words in a row. These 3 good words are in the ears of the Su family relatives, like a bell hitting their chest, making them very uncomfortable. Surprisingly, Su Yingxia received the appreciation of the old lady. Not to mention driving Su Yingxia out of the Su family, Su Yingxia is likely to be valued in the future. They don't want Su Yingxia to step on their own head. Su Yingxia, I didn't expect you to be lucky enough to make it happen. Su Haichao had to admit this fact. Tomorrow, the weak water real estate person will come to the company, and even if he doesn't want to believe it, he doesn't think Su Yingxia will say such meaningless big things. You haven't forgotten what you said, have you? Said Su Yingxia. Su Haichao gritted his teeth and said, Su Yingxia, you're just lucky this time. Even if I go, I can still do it. Do you really want me to bring you tea and water? Su Haichao would never do such a shameful thing, because he is the most powerful person in the Su family and also the most likely to inherit the position of chairman. How could it be possible to serve tea and water to Su Yingxia? Su Yingxia, don't go too far. You think that if you have some good luck, you can ride on Su Haichao's head. That's right, I really consider myself a hero. Maybe I can go with me. Su Yingxia, as an elder, let me say, let's just forget about this matter. You're just lucky. Several relatives of the Su family came forward to speak up for Su Haichao. Watching them selling their old age, Su Yingxia smiled in anger. They were such shameless people. Although it was Su Haichao's own agreement, now it was actually her fault. If there were no cooperation talks, would these people still stand up and speak up when Su Haichao wants to drive her out of the Su family? Willing to gamble and accepting defeat, the old lady spoke softly. As soon as these words were spoken, the relatives who defended Su Haichao were all like eggplants beaten by Shuang, afraid to say any more nonsense. Su Haichao's expression was as uncomfortable as eating feces. Although he had 10,000 unwillingness in his heart, his grandmother spoke up and he dared not do it. She honestly brought Su Yingxia a cup of tea and reluctantly shouted, Sister Xiao. Su Haichao, who lowered his head, had a sinister look in his eyes and thought to himself, this time you are proud. Don't expect to have a good life in the future. I am the most powerful person in the company. There are many ways to kill you, and sooner or later I will return this shame to you. Su Yingxia took the tea, but didn't drink it. Instead, she placed it on the meeting table and said to the old lady, Grandma, I'll go back and prepare the materials first. I need to talk to Zhong Liang tomorrow. After the meeting ended, Su Yingxia and the old lady left the conference room, but the other relatives were still unwilling to leave. Su Haichao, you must find a way to kill Su Yingxia's sharpness, but you can't let her get any help. Not bad, if you really let her take charge of cooperating with weekly water property, it might even affect your status. Su Haichao's face was gloomy. As these relatives said, if Su Yingxia really cooperates with weak water real estate, his position in the company will inevitably be affected. Don't worry, I will never let this bitch succeed. Su Yingxia and Han Sanxian returned home. Su Guiyao and Jiang Lan sat nervously in the living room, as their family was facing a critical moment of life and death. Su Guiyao didn't even have the courage to attend the meeting, afraid of witnessing himself being kicked out of the Su family with his own eyes. "Welcome Summer, how are you doing?" Jianlan asked with a guilty heart. Looking at her parents looking worried, Su Yingxia smiled and said, "Don't worry, we won't be kicked out of the Su family." Su Guiyao looked at Su Yingxia in shock, stood up and asked incredulously, "You? Did you really negotiate cooperation? Yingxia, did you do it?" Jianlan also had a stunned expression. Su Yingxia nodded and glanced at Han Sanqian. Others thought it was her fault, and only she knew that Han Sanqian was the one who contributed to this. "Yes, it's a deal, even the contract has been signed," said Su Yingxia. Jianlan excitedly walked up to Su Yingxia, pushed Han Sanqian away, and said excitedly, "Yingxia, my good daughter, it's all my mother's fault. Mom should believe you." "Yingxia, what did your grandmother say? Did Su Haichao bring you tea and water?" Su Guiyao suddenly regretted not attending the meeting and missed the opportunity to witness Su Haichao calling out to Xia Jie. It was really a pity. Grandma said 3 good words, and Su Haichao also served me tea and water. Seeing her parents happy, Su Yingxia was also very happy. Su Yingxia is happy, and Han Sanqian is naturally happy as well. However, when Jianlan saw Han Sanqian smile, she was filled with dissatisfaction and said coldly, "Why are you laughing? This is our family's credit for welcoming summer, and it has nothing to do with you." Su Yingxia was about to speak for Han Sanqian, but when she saw Han Sanqian shake his head, she could only sigh. "You can rest assured now, no one can drive us out of the Su family. Don't worry, I didn't expect my daughter to be so successful. Mom is so happy." The family was harmonious, but Han Sanqian was excluded and could only silently go to the kitchen. That night, Su Haichao and his father went to the Su family villa. He did not allow Su Yingxia to have a chance to turn over and must curb her development momentum. Chapter 8. Change of responsible person. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Grandma, do you really want to entrust this matter to Su Yingxia? Su Haichao said to the old lady in the living room of the Su family villa. The old lady looked taken for granted and said, "Since this contract was negotiated during the summer vacation, it naturally has to be entrusted to her for responsibility. Is there any problem? Mom, you have to think carefully about this matter. Su Yingxia is ultimately a woman. Once she establishes her reputation in the company, it won't be a good thing for Haichao," said Su Guolin. The old lady of the Su family looked at the two with a displeased expression on her face and said, "Just say what you have and don't play riddles with me." Grandma, although Han Sanqian has entered our Su family, to be honest, he is a foreigner and has been a waste for 3 years without achieving anything. If Su Yingxia takes control of the company, won't you be afraid that our Su family's industry will fall into the hands of this foreigner? Su Haichao said. Yingxia and this useless person have no relationship at all. If it weren't for my concern for the face of the Su family, they would have divorced long ago. The situation you are worried about cannot have happened, said the old lady. Su Haichao gritted his teeth and continued, Grandma, who can say for sure about the future? We need to be on the safe side, and since the contract has been signed, changing the person in charge doesn't affect it. Do you want to use the future of the Su family to gamble on the relationship between Su Yingxia and Han Sanqian? Upon hearing these words, the old lady's expression became serious. Although Su Yingxia and Han Sanqian have no real names now, no one can guarantee the future. What if the pillow wind blows and the two suddenly get better again? The Qingxi project is crucial for the Su family, as it can greatly enhance their position in Yuncheng. This means that the person in charge of this project will also have a rising position in the company in the future. If Su Yingxia were to win over people's hearts, the Su family could really fall into the hands of Han Sanqian, a foreigner. Grandma, Han Sanqian has been holding back for so many years, and I suspect he has a purpose at all. Maybe he's just waiting for this day. Su Haichao continued to add fuel and vinegar. The old lady snorted coldly and said, "With this useless person, you dare not covet the property of my Su family. It's just a dream. Alright, you're in charge of the project, and I'll call Su Yingxia right away." Upon hearing these words, Su Haichao was overjoyed, but on the surface, he still pretended to be calm and said, "Grandma, I'm not trying to compete with Su Yingxia for credit, I'm just doing it for the good of the Su family." The old lady has grown into a happy adult at her age. How could she not know what Su Haichao was thinking? If you add insult to injury like this, you don't have to say anything. I understand your thoughts very well. Also, don't lie in front of me in the future, even feeding pigs with pu'er cakes would be considered shabby. The old lady said sternly. Su Haichao nodded repeatedly and said, "Grandma is right. In the future, Haichao will definitely work diligently." Su Yingxia was preparing materials when her grandmother called, making her feel like she was struck by lightning. Although this cooperation was easy to negotiate, it was also her decision to negotiate. How could it be handed over to Su Haichao for no reason? "Grandma, Alright, I've made a decision. You can take a break for yourself tomorrow." Listening to the busy voice on the phone, Su Yingxia gritted her teeth in hatred. She knew that it must have been Su Haichao behind her back who was causing her grandmother to change the person in charge. Not long after, the phone rang again, and it was from Su Haichao. When I picked up the phone, I heard Su Haichao's proud voice. "Su Yingxia, you wouldn't think that the opportunity for Xianyu to turn over has come, would you? I tell you, you will live under my feet for the rest of your life." "Su Haichao, you despicable and shameless person, this cooperation was negotiated by me," Su Yingxia said unwillingly. "So what? Grandma asked me to take responsibility. Do you dare to have any objections? In theory, I should say thank you to you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to take care of this project. But who makes us enemies? You are destined to only be idle with that coward in your life. In fact, this is also quite good. You just have to eat and wait for death, there's no need." Before Su Haichao could finish speaking, Su Yingxia hung up the phone, so angry that her hair stood on end. This was my grandmother's decision, and Su Yingxia knew she couldn't change anything. Su Haichao was showing off in front of her, and she was helpless. "Ah!" Su Yingxia let out a frustrated roar. The commotion alarmed Su Guiyao and Jiang Lan, who ran from the room to the living room. "Yingxia, what's going on? Did Han Sanxian bully you?" Jiang Lan said nervously. Although Han Sanxian and Su Yingxia have been married for 3 years, Jiang Lan knew that Su Yingxia had not let Han Sanxian touch her in these 3 years, and she didn't want her precious daughter to be wasted in the hands of Han Sanxian, a useless person. "What's going on?" Su Guiyao also asked nervously. Su Yingxia was just venting for a moment, because the fact was already predetermined. She said, "It's nothing, I'm just depressed and want to vent." "What are you feeling down about? You even negotiated the contract for the weak water property. In the future, if you are responsible for this project, our family's position in the company will definitely become higher and higher. We should be happy," Su Guiyao said with a smile. "Dad, Grandma changed the person in charge and didn't let me take responsibility. Su Haichao replaced me," Su Yingxia said dejectedly. "What?" Su Guiyao said in shock. The contract was clearly negotiated by Su Yingxia, how could Su Haichao be held responsible? Jiang Lan was so angry that she jumped her feet and cursed loudly, "Su Haichao, this bastard, must have splashed dirty water on your grandmother again. No, I have to go and argue with him." As Jiang Lan was about to rush out of the house, Su Guiyao quickly grabbed her and said, "This matter was decided by Mom. What's the use of going to find Su Haichao now? What's the use? Every time it's a compromise, should we be riding on him? Su Guiyao, are you so cowardly that you still have a bottom line? Jiang Lan roared at the top of her lungs. Su Guiyao was too timid to speak again, so Su Yingxia had no choice but to say, "Mom, Dad is right. It's useless for you to go and make trouble. Is that all for now? The cooperation you worked hard to negotiate has made Su Haichao's wedding dress. Are you willing?" said Jiang Lan. How could Su Yingxia be willing? But the company is Grandma's the final say. Even if she is not reconciled, she can only swallow her pride. At this moment, Han Sanxian appeared at the door of the room and said to Su Yingxia, "Don't worry, no one else can be responsible for this project except you." Jiang Lan was already in a fit of anger, and when she saw Han Sanxian getting even angrier, she coldly said, "This is a matter of our family. It has nothing to do with you. If you don't speak, no one will treat you as mute." Su Yingxia was anxious. The cooperation was only handled with the help of Han Sanxian, but Jiang Lan's attitude towards him was so bad. "Mom, hurry up and go to bed. I will find a way to deal with this matter," said Su Yingxia. Jiang Lan's mood was not smooth, and she had no intention of sleeping. She was forcibly dragged back to her room by Su Guiyao. After Su Yingxia returned to her room and closed the door, she said to Han Sanxian, "I apologize for Mom. She doesn't know anything, that's why. If I mind, I would have run away from home a long time ago," Han Sanxian said indifferently. Run away from home. For Su Yingxia, these 4 words strike a chord. Does he even consider this place his home? Do you really don't care at all, mocking with cold words every day? Su Yingxia asked. You bear more than I do, what qualifications do I have to care about? Upon hearing these words, Su Yingxia stood still on the spot, covering her face with both hands and tears streaming down her face. Are you enduring all of this because of me? The next day, Su Haichao was wearing the most expensive suit in his wardrobe, standing at the company gate in a dog-like manner to welcome Zhong Liang's arrival. Although the contract has been signed, today's meeting is equally important, and the most important thing is to make Zhong Liang accept the change of the person in charge. Su Haichao is very confident that he can replace Su Yingxia, because his position in the Su family company is higher than that of Su Yingxia and he has more say, which will definitely make Zhong Liang feel the importance that the Su family attaches to this cooperation. When he saw Zhong Liang from afar, Su Haichao couldn't wait to walk up. Hello Zhong, my name is Su Haichao and I am the head of the Su family for this project. Su Haichao reached out and introduced himself as a gentleman. Zhong Liang shook his hand, and Su Haichao was overjoyed in his heart. It seemed that Zhong Liang had accepted the change of person in charge. Su Yingxia indeed negotiated this cooperation based on luck, and it didn't matter whether or not she was there. Chapter 9. The People of the Chicken Thief. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Miss Su. Zhong Liang asked seemingly unintentionally. Su Haichao thought that Zhong Liang was just casually asking and could just find a reason to spin things off. He said, I'm sick, and I will be responsible for future cooperation with your company. Zhong Liang nodded and said, since that's the case, let's talk about it after Miss Su recovers from her illness. After speaking, Zhong Liang turned around and left. Su Haichao stood still for a moment and quickly caught up with Zhong Liang, saying, Brother Zhong, I am also responsible for this matter. Don't worry, my ability is stronger than Su Yingxia's, and the cooperation with your company. Before Su Haichao could finish speaking, Zhong Liang stopped by the car and said, there are many people who want to cooperate with Weakenwater Real Estate. Since the Su family is so insincere, I will reconsider this matter. Watching Zhong Liang's car soar away, Su Haichao stood there dumbfounded. He thought Zhong Liang didn't care about this matter at all, but he didn't expect his attitude to be so tough. Think again. This sentence made Su Haichao's scalp tingle. The Su family is already a company with moderate strength among many competitors, and it is very rare to get this cooperation. If it were ruined by him, the old lady would have to kill him. What should I do? Is it really difficult to let that bitch Su Yingxia come forward? Su Haichao was not willing to accept it. He only boasted to Su Yingxia last night. If he begged her to clean up this mess, what face would he have? At this moment, Su Haichao's phone rang. Haichao, your grandmother has already arrived at the company, hasn't Zhongliang arrived yet? Su Guolin asked. This old man is also very proud now. The opportunity he snatched from Su Yingxia can establish Su Haichao's position in the company. As long as Su Haichao completes this task and becomes the chairman of the Su family, it is basically a guaranteed thing. I'll be in the conference room right away, Su Hai said in a deep voice. In the conference room, all the relatives of the Su family were present. After all, it was such an important cooperation. In order to demonstrate the sincerity of the Su family, no one dared to be absent. Mrs. Su sat on the board of directors and saw Su Haichao alone in the meeting room. She asked, hasn't Zhongliang arrived yet? Grandma, Su Haichao said with his head lowered. The old lady of the Su family frowned and asked, what's going on? Aren't you offending Zhongliang? As soon as these words were spoken, the relatives of the Su family looked at Su Haichao with worried eyes, especially Su Guolin. He was still proud that Su Haichao had received this opportunity. If Su Haichao messed it up, his hope of sitting on the board of directors in the future would be slim. Haichao, what's going on? Is it because Zhongliang is not available today and has changed the time, said Su Guolin. Because Su Yingxia didn't appear, Zhongliang was very angry. He said. Seeing Su Hai overspending and hesitating, the old lady slapped the conference table and said sternly, what did he say? Su Haichao remained silent and quickly said, he said he will reconsider his cooperation with the Su family. The old lady was so angry that she blew her beard and stared. If it weren't for Su Haichao's visit to her last night, the person in charge of this project wouldn't have changed, and Zhongliang wouldn't have been angry either. How many companies are coveting this cooperation, and how many people want to grab a handful of wool from this fat sheep? The Su family had already received this opportunity, but it may have been missed due to the Su Guolin father and son. Su Haichao, Su Guolin, if the Su family cannot cooperate with weak water property this time, you father and son will get out of the Su family for me, the old lady gritted her teeth and said. The father and son turned pale upon hearing these words, never expecting such serious consequences. And the old lady always keeps her word, so if she asks to leave, she will never stay. Grandma, the contracts have already been signed. Can he still go back on his word? Su Haichao said unwillingly. The old lady sneered and said, don't you know who the backstage of the weak water property is? With the weight of the Su family, what can you do with the weak water property? Even if he sends the penalty to you, do you dare to reach out and take it? The old lady's words made all the relatives of the Su family dare not breathe. As she said, if the penalty for breach of contract is sent to their doorstep, who dares to go and collect it? Behind the weak water property, it's the Han family in Yancheng. Only Su Yingxia has a chance to salvage the situation. You can handle it yourself, the old lady said angrily as she left. The other relatives of the Su family had a slight change in their eyes as they looked at Su Haichao. They knew that after this incident, Su Yingxia's position in the company was likely to rise soon and could potentially threaten Su Haichao. Previously, they flattered Su Haichao because he had the most hope of becoming the chairman of the company. However, now that Su Haichao has made a mistake in this matter, his image in the old lady's heart is bound to plummet, and the chairman's situation is uncertain. Haichao, this matter can only be solved by yourself, and we can't help you either. Yeah, we can't do anything to help. The old lady is getting angry, so you should think of a way to solve it quickly. We have other things to attend to, so let's leave first. A group of relatives scattered birds and beasts. There are only two father and son, Su Guolin and Su Haichao, left in the conference room. Su Guolin's face turned pale with hatred and said fiercely, I don't know what kind of potion Su Yingxia has given Zhong Liang. Talking to him based on your position in the company, he still doesn't give face. Su Haichao almost gritted his back teeth, then raised a sneer and said, it's very likely that Su Yingxia brought a green hat to that trash. Unexpectedly, Su Yingxia is really a bitch. Anyway, the only way to deal with this is to let her step forward. Your grandmother never goes back on her word, Su Guolin sighed. Thinking of this gave Su Haichao a headache. He had known he wouldn't have called Su Yingxia last night, and now he had to personally ask Su Yingxia to come forward. This slap was too fast. I can only call her. Su Haichao took out his phone and dialed Su Yingxia's number. I dare not delay this matter. If Zhong Liangzhen chooses other partners, there is no room for redemption. Su Yingxia was ordered to rest at home today, feeling frustrated and depressed. While watching TV at home, her phone rang. Just as he stood up to go and get it, Han Sanxian reached out and got his phone. Su Haichao called, I'll pick you up, Han Sanxian said. Su Yingxia didn't know what Han Sanxian wanted to do, but since he had said that, Su Yingxia naturally wouldn't have any objections. Welcome summer, come to the company right away. Han Sanxian amplified and Su Haichao's voice came through the phone. Upon hearing Su Haichao's voice, Su Yingxia couldn't help but feel angry. This guy didn't show off enough last night. Do you still want her to go to the company to humiliate her? Just as she was about to speak, Han Sanxian made a gesture of silence towards her. Yingxia is sick, Han Sanxian said. Upon hearing Han Sanxian's voice, Su Haichao became particularly impatient and said, give the phone to Su Yingxia, you have no right to talk to me. Oh, Han Sanxian responded casually, then hung up and shut down. What are you doing? Su Yingxia asked in confusion. Su Haichao is looking for your help. It must be because Zhong Liang is not discussing cooperation with him, so he hopes you can come forward, Han Sanxian said. Su Yingxia was taken aback and asked, really? Of course it's true. Su Yingxia stood up and said impatiently, let's go quickly. Even if you're in a hurry, it's not your turn to be in a hurry. It's him who should be in a hurry. I think my grandmother must be very angry now. Su Haichao is begging for your help. He's trying to take away your position as the person in charge. Are you going to help him so easily? Han Sanxian said. Su Yingxia still doesn't understand Han Sanxian's meaning. This cooperation is very crucial for the Su family. If she can do it, she can improve her position in the Su family. If there is any delay or mistake, Su Haichao will definitely be punished, but she won't get any benefits either. What should I do then? Su Yingxia asked. Wait for him to come and beg you. This is a good opportunity for you to seek revenge, Han Sanxian smiled. But don't worry, you forgot. Is the owner of the weak water property my classmate? Even if it's delayed for a few days, it's not a problem, Han Sanxian explained. Su Yingxia suddenly realized, her eyes rolling as she looked at Han Sanxian. She lay on the sofa and said calmly, Han Sanxian, I didn't see it. You're still a chicken thief. Chapter 10. Strength. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Su Haichao, who had been hung up on the phone, was furious and threw his phone on the ground, shattering it to pieces. This trash dares to hang up my phone, what qualifications do you have? Su Haichao said angrily. Su Guolin's heart sank. If Su Yingxia didn't come forward with this matter, they would all be finished. Haichao, what's going on? Aren't Su Yingxia willing to step forward? Su Guolin asked. Su Haichao sneered and said, Han Sanxian answered the phone, saying that Su Yingxia was sick. Sick. Su Guolin spat and sneered, I think she's just pretending to be sick and deliberately evading. Angry, Su Guolin's intelligence is still online. Anyway, they want Su Yingxia to come forward. The cooperation is small, but being kicked out of the Su family is big. Hai Chao, let's go. Dad will accompany you on this trip, said Su Guolin. Su Haichao had a cold expression on his face and was hung up by Han Sanxian. Now he was feeling angry and of course wanted to go find Han Sanxian to settle the accounts. Upon arriving at the residential area where Su Yingxia's home is located, Su Guolin looked disgusted. As expected, he is the least promising person in the Su family, yet he still lives in such a place. Dad, even if they can have a dog house to live in, it's not bad. With a monthly salary of several thousand yuan, can we still let them live in the villa on Yunding Mountain? Su Haichao sneered. Being able to live in the Yundingshen Villa district is a reflection of one's identity. The biggest wish of the Su family is to have them move into the Yundingshen Villa, because only by living there can one truly touch the doorstep of a top-tier aristocratic family. When the knocking on the door sounded, Han Sanxian asked Su Yingxia to return to his room. Since he wanted to pretend to be sick, he needed the entire set of acting. Opening the door, Su Haichao looked at Han Sanxian with an angry expression. Han Sanxian, did you hang up on my phone just now? Su Haichao said. Not bad. Su Haichao suddenly raised his fist and swung it towards Han Sanxian's face. You trash, what qualifications do you have to hang up on my phone? Bang! Han Sanxian kicked Su Haichao in the stomach with a thunderous force. Before Su Haichao could drop his fist, he slammed into the wall with a loud bang. The sharp pain in his belly twisted Su Haichao's expression and he squatted on the ground. Han Sanxian, dare you hit my son? Su Guolin was furious when he saw this scene. Han Sanxian glared coldly at Su Guolin and rebuked, if you keep talking nonsense, even you will be beaten. Su Guolin's heart was shaken, and this despicable gaze made him feel scared. Isn't he a soft egg that has always been bullied by others? Why did you suddenly become stronger today? Han Sanxian, you dare to hit me, Su Haichao said with teeth clenched. Since you're here to ask for someone, you have a begging appearance. Didn't Grandma explain clearly to you the consequences of losing cooperation? Han Sanxian said. This sentence instantly dissipated the anger of Su Guolin and Su Haichao, and cooperation could not save them. They had to be kicked out of the Su family. Han Sanxian, is this matter related to you? Let Su Yingxia come out, said Su Guolin. Why doesn't it have anything to do with me? Su Yingxia is my wife, and she is sick now. I will be in charge of the family's affairs for the time being, Han Sanxian said. Wife. Upon hearing Han Sanxian's words, Su Guolin and Su Haichao both sneered at each other. Han Sanxian, do you still have some dignity as a man? A coward who relies on women to eat has your voice. Su Guolin said. Did Su Yingxia agree with what you said? And you don't know that Su Yingxia has put a green hat on you, do you think she talked about the cooperation of weak water real estate? Su Haichao sneered at Han Sanxian. Han Sanxian frowned and asked Su Yingxia how to discuss cooperation. Of course, he knew that Su Haichao's words were clearly malicious slander towards Su Yingxia. Walking up to Su Haichao, Han Sanxian, who was commanding, showed a murderous intent in his eyes. Su Haichao shrank his neck, feeling inexplicably scared, and stuttered, what do you want to do? If you dare to say a bad word about her again, I want you to live or die. Su Haichao's Adam's apple wriggled and he swallowed saliva, yet he didn't have any doubts about Han Sanxian's words. What are you doing? At this moment, Su Guiyao and Jiang Lan happened to come back and saw this scene. Guiyao, your son-in-law is so successful that even my son dares to beat him. Seeing Su Guiyao, Su Guolin regained his proud and arrogant demeanor, because this younger brother had been weak since childhood. When he was young, he snatched candy, and when he was studying, he snatched textbooks and girlfriends. Su Guolin never lost, so he had a natural sense of superiority in front of Su Guiyao. However, Su Guiyao was bullied from a young age and developed a psychological shadow. Seeing this big brother made him feel scared. Han Sanxian, are you crazy, Lian? Before Su Guiyao could finish speaking, he was grabbed by Jiang Lan. Although Jiang Lan didn't like Han Sanxian in her heart, Su Haichao stole Su Yingxia's project leader last night. She couldn't find a place to vent her anger, and Su Haichao was beaten, so she didn't have time to be happy. Big brother, your son was beaten, it was self-inflicted. If he did something wrong, there will naturally be retribution, said Jiang Lan. You. Su Guolin was extremely angry, trembling, his fingertips pointing at Jiang Lan. What am I? What are you pointing at me for? What are you doing when you come to my house when you have nothing to do? I don't welcome you here. Jiang Lan was already a shrew, and she started throwing tantrums. How could Su Guolin be the opponent? Yeah, big brother, how could you come to my house? You've never been here before. Su Guiyao was also surprised. Su's relatives never come to their house. Can the sun come out from the west today? Su Guolin and Su Haichao felt embarrassed and couldn't say a word. Han Sanxian spoke up and said, the people in the weak water property are unwilling to talk to the new person in charge, so they came to seek help from Yingxia. I guess grandma is not angry. Upon hearing these words, Jiang Lan laughed heartily. Big brother, you are also here today and will come to us for help. Feng Shui takes turns, said Jiang Lan. Su Guolin's future is now in Su Yingxia's hands. Although he is very dissatisfied, he dare not refute what Jiang Lan said. Guiyao, we did something wrong this time. I apologize to you, said Su Guolin. Su Guiyao, who is so old, has never seen the strong side of Su Guolin. When did he apologize to him? He felt a bit confused for a moment. Su Haichao lowered his head and felt his face turn pale, but he could only accept this situation. Big brother, mom's punishment for you is not small, otherwise you wouldn't be able to apologize to me, Su Guiyao said curiously. This time, you must help me, otherwise I will be kicked out of the Su family. Su Guolin didn't hide it, anyway, he had already lost face. As long as he could maintain his position in the Su family, he would have a chance to seek revenge, but if he was kicked out of the Su family, there was nothing left. Han Sanxian was also somewhat surprised when he heard these words. Although he had thought that the old lady would pressure Su Guolin, driving out the Su family was still far beyond his imagination. No, why can't I help you? You used to make things difficult for us, Jiang Lan refused. Sisters, why do you have to do such a hurtful and selfish thing? Being able to cooperate with weekly water property is also beneficial to your family. I was kicked out of the Su family, what else can you get besides having fun? Su Guolin said. Upon careful consideration, Jiang Lan realized the same logic. Su Guolin's expulsion would not affect her position in the Su family, but having Su Yingxia take charge of this collaboration would have a completely different meaning. What about welcoming summer? Jiang Lan asked Han Sanxian. I'm sick, I'm resting, Han Sanxian said. I'm sick, how could I suddenly get sick? Jiang Lan ran nervously into the door, shouting as she ran. Upon entering the room, seeing Su Yingxia's usual expression, who didn't seem to be sick, he asked, Yingxia, what's wrong with you? Su Yingxia chuckled and whispered, Mom, I'm not feeling unwell. It was Han Sanxian who deliberately made me pretend to be sick. Intentionally. Jiang Lan was taken aback for a moment, then understood Han Sanxian's intention and said calmly, I didn't expect this useless person to have a lot of careful eyes. Mom, can you stop being a loser in the future? Su Yingxia said discontentedly. Jiang Lan glared at Su Yingxia and said, although he did a good job in this matter, being so cautious is not a real skill. You can't fall in love with him just because he did these things, can you? Mom, I've been married to him for 3 years.